Welcome to Seagull Eagle, the podcast where two rivals meet, Crystal Palace and Brighton, where stats are cherry-picked and memories are selective.
This week at Brighton, boos ring out at the Amex, the manager looked more shaken than a baby's rattle, and does Uncle Tony have a decision to make? What a mess.
And this week at Palace, we're back. A win at the Amex, and looks like we're starting to find our spark again.
We'll discuss all of this and much more, because this has to be Seagull Eagle. Hello, Andy.
Neil, are you okay, mate?
Yeah.
Been worried about you.
Oh, mate. How are you, more importantly?
I'm all right, actually.
Yeah,
had a nice,
thought you might be.
had a nice weekend. Had a nice day out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, are you all right though? Because I feel I'll be honest with you. We've had a couple of text exchanges, and I haven't even kind of stuck the foot in. To be honest with you,
No.
you've just fell in the hole yourself. And I've been a bit worried about you down in that hole. Have you found your way out?
Well, I have to be honest, my mental health did go downhill a little bit the last couple of days. So look, first things first, let's just make this clear, right? So last week, we were talking about the fact that you couldn't get a ticket, but in the end, you managed to get a ticket. So you were there. I can't believe it, annoyingly, but you were actually there. I was there. Different places, obviously, but you were there as well.
I was there. Don't ask how, but I was there.
Yeah.
And it was all legal, don't worry. I didn't climb over a fence or anything. But yes, I was there, and it was a lovely day out. I mean, mate, truthfully, it's the first time that I've ever actually been to the Amex, believe it or not. I've not been able to get a ticket up until this point. So yeah,
We're very hospitable, aren't we?
You are actually, and it was quite funny, really, because we booked the parking, right, and I'm not sure if I booked the right parking place, because obviously I'm pretty confident I booked the bit with the fans in, the Brighton fans in. So we walked up with all the Brighton fans, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I wasn't in all my Palace colours and everything like that, because I didn't want to die, truthfully, Neil. And I had my boy with me, so I thought, do you know what? Neil's been weighing on about all these lovely facilities that you've got in your nice newish stadium. So I thought, we'll have a look. And so we had a little look in the fan zone, and I felt naughty. I felt really naughty, but I did have a drink beforehand, and watched all the Brighton fans boo the Palace players as they were coming off the coach on the telly.
You enjoyed the terrace, though. It's nice, isn't it? It's good,
mate. Right, here's the truth.
Yeah,
it absolutely wallops all over the
fantastic
Palace fan zone, doesn't it? You haven't got the dodgy bloke who does the breakdancing, though. We have.
No, yeah, I missed that one this week, but that was a shame.
Yeah, but no, your facilities are great, mate. They genuinely are. All of that money, though, you still have to queue for an hour to get a pint. It doesn't
Oh yeah,
make a difference, does it? But no, it was great, and we bumped into every single person that we know as well. So whilst we were trying to be undercover in that fan zone, I didn't know you supported Brighton. No, I didn't either. One of them conversations. And also, just before we go into the gruesome details of the game, you know, credit where credit's due, good catering at Brighton as well. Decent pie, decent sausage roll. Quite happy with that.
Piglet's Pantry. Do you know what? They've gone into administration 2 weeks ago.
They have.
And there was this whole really big worry about what's going to happen at the Amex and stuff. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Piglet's Pantry, you get to find somebody to take over and keep the name going, because they're fantastic pies, aren't they?
Mate, they're good. They are good. No, look, we had a lovely day out, and yeah, we were very grateful to be there, and it felt like a bit of a cup final, mate, didn't it?
Mate, I don't even know where to start. Well, I suppose we just have to start from the beginning. So look, this episode, obviously, normally we'll go through each other's games and we'll talk in different sections, but obviously there's one game to talk about, and we need to dissect it as much as we can. So let's start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start, as someone once said. Lineups. So go through it from your point of view. How did you see your lineup looking?
Well, Neil, whilst you were in the hospitality bit of the Amex, by the way, for those who don't know, he was celebrating a nice big birthday, and his missus had bought him a nice little hospitality package.
It was very nice.
Whilst I was dicing with death in the fan zone before the game, I was messaging Neil whilst he was eating his steak. And he was like, "Oh, lineups were out. What do you think?" And my reply to you, I think at that time, was strongest lineup I've seen for Palace since November.
Yeah.
And I stand by it, and I would have stand by it actually, even if we lost. It was, you were actually, in my eyes, the first team to actually play Palace. And even without the people that left, etc., there's an equivalent now, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I
I
guess
feel
so.
like it was a proper team with an actual bench for the first time in quite a while. We were kind of nearly there last week, but this week it felt good. Obviously, Strand Larsen had his Palace debut.
Yep.
So I think everyone was wondering what was going to happen there. Walton returned from suspension. Gessan was on the bench, which was exciting. And also Commander returning from injury, his first game since 14th of December, I think, against Man City when he got injured. So that was really, really good to see. And obviously we had Glasner chose to play Lerma in defence because there was this whole question now, which is like, what does Palace look like when you've got a choice? Which we haven't had for quite a while, right? So he chose to play Lerma in kind of the right-hand side of that back three, leaving a space for Hughes in midfield to play with Wharton. So I thought that was actually a really, really good choice for the Brighton game because you kind of want Hughes in the middle, giving it the large and sliding in from all over the place. From a Palace perspective, of course,
I get
he
it.
is the perfect kind of derby or rival game
Mm.
person to play, right? So yeah, from a Palace perspective, kind of what we thought. I think my only disappointment actually was Pino started over Gessan, and I was hoping it might be the other way round, but I guess it worked out in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt, it really did. Well, look, from a Brighton point of view, I think the biggest shock was the fact that Van Heck wasn't in the starting lineup and he wasn't on the bench. In other words,
Why?
well, again, one of those issues that we have where we go press conference on the Thursday, everything's fine, everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Game on Sunday, suddenly everyone's injured, everyone disappears. So this time, yeah, Van Heck was the guy that just completely disappeared. Hurzeler did mention that it was an injury. There were some weird rumours around on X and some social media posts that were a bit weird, and nothing's been substantiated. So all I would say is, from the club's perspective, they said it was an injury. We'll just have to wait and see how much of an injury it is. But that's a
Yeah.
big loss, like a big loss. He's by far our best defender. And Dunk has been a great defender, but he's on the wane. And Van Heck is by far the best defender we've
Sorry,
got.
did you say Dunk was a defender?
Yeah.
Swear I saw him playing up front at one point.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to
Oh,
that.
right, okay.
Don't get me started yet. So yeah, Van Heck missing is a big absence, obviously. And the only good news that we had was that Babis Kostoulas gets his first start up front, which
Mm.
it's good news. A lot of fans have been asking for him to start, and I didn't have a problem with it. I thought fair enough, we'll give him a try. There is a question mark over why you choose this game to start him a little bit in my eyes, but fair enough, we start him. A lot of people wanted that to see that.
Well, I
The
guess
biggest
is it not down to options though, Neil? Because I guess what was it, him or Welbeck?
Well, him or Welbeck, yeah, but Welbeck
Yeah.
with a wealth of experience, who scored the most goals in the Premier League for us currently, and who is fit and who hasn't had a game for a week. Like, there's no problems. I don't, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit of the manager bowing to pressure, and I'm not necessarily sure that's a good idea personally, but it didn't work out. But I wouldn't say he was terrible, Kostoulas. I just don't think he particularly got into the game.
He could have got a couple.
Well, exactly, yeah. The biggest surprise for me, and I think for a lot of people, was Harry Howell. And now, I mean, this is just a bizarre selection choice, right? So Harry Howell, nothing against him, right? He is an incredibly promising player. He
I
plays
was
for
going to say,
the
be nice to him. He's
yeah,
still a kid, isn't he?
17 years of age. He's our
That
youngest
same.
ever. Yeah, 17, our youngest ever debutant in the Premier League. He plays for England under 17s, under 18s. He's
Okay.
very, very promising, right? And he has had a handful of appearances in the last few minutes of games here or there, okay? But apparently he was ahead of all the other options that we had on right wing because, and I quote, he trained well this week, so he deserved his chance.
That's a
So
big call. That's a big call.
Innit? It's a big call. And for this particular game, with all of the history behind it and the form going into the game from the two sides,
Mm,
not playing your strongest, in my opinion, 11 was a very big call. Now, there is obviously something wrong with Yankuba Minte. For whatever reason, either the manager doesn't like him anymore or he's still injured and they have to manage his minutes or something. But
or
if
he
that
was scared to play Palace.
but if that is true, right? If there is a reason why we're not starting Minte medically, if there's a reason of that, why the hell did we let Gruder go? Why did we let
Mm,
Watson go? Like as I said last week when I was talking about the transfers, it leaves us with two apparent fit first team wingers, and he's not choosing to play one of them. So it was an incredibly strange lineup to start with. And, De Kuyper at left back, fine. We give him another go. We see how he is. So Boscagli came in at the back. And then from then on, it was what everyone expected. Jorginho Rutter is the sort of the biggest head scratch, really, because I understand why he's playing, but still, he's so out of form at the moment. He's so out
yeah.
of form, And we had Matt O'Reilly back. Now, he has played 10 a lot over the last year, especially at Marseille as well. He was playing in midfield and moving forward. So he was on the bench back. But yeah, so from a lineup's point of view, I think that was the biggest surprise, really, that Howell was in the team and Van Hecke was missing.
Very strange. Very strange. But you cannot guess what your manager does, can you? Yeah.
But this
Okay.
is the thing. I saw the stat on Match of the Day last night. I think we've only kept the same 11 once so far.
Mm.
Like, that's crazy. Like, that is absolutely crazy. Now, I get injuries happen, but that's not all about injuries. And it just seems like he's just constantly searching. Well, it's true, isn't it? He is. He's searching
Well,
for some sort of team.
I think also by the fact that, Friday press conferences to Saturday or Sunday games, you tend to lose a couple of players every week. Something tells me that your medical staff might be listened to maybe a little bit too much. The opposite happens at Palace, where we just ignore them and let them play with a knee injury for 9 months. But I think, I don't know, maybe you're a little bit too easy on them.
There's
Yeah.
something going on, and this is partly my point around Hurzeler, which I'll get to later, that this isn't all on Hurzeler. Like, there's a huge amount, of course, it's his responsibility ultimately, but there's a
Mm.
huge back staff. There's all the players as well. This is not just on Hurzeler. But look, let's get into the game
It's
first,
not
mate.
it's not what I heard after the game, mate.
I
But
agree.
anyway, yeah.
Let's get into it.
First half then, right? One thing I wanted to start on this one, I mean, it's a bit weird. We kind of got to share a match review here, haven't we?
Yeah, I
So,
know.
but
We're not good at
but
sharing, are we? So come
no,
on,
we're not.
we
We're
can do it
not.
though. Come on.
I don't know what you think, mate, but my first, before we kind of talk about probably the two big moments that happened in that first half, probably in 45 minutes, I would go as far as to say that this was by no means a classic game. It was reasonably dull, drab, unexciting to start off with, and I mean there was a couple of early chances and narrow misses, but it wasn't. I don't think either team was on their A game. What I noticed from a Palace perspective was obviously your team better than I know your team, and so on. And I think that from a Palace perspective, me sitting there watching it week in week out, I did feel like something had changed. So there was we were going for we were winning the first balls and we were winning the second balls. We were in for the fight, if that makes sense. It
Mm.
felt a bit different. It felt like they had the heads up just from the offset.
That's a really interesting observation because for me, it was completely the opposite. So for
Yeah.
me, it was the fact that I was noticing that for the first time, actually, and I need to make this clear, this isn't a long term thing. This is the first time I've seen the players not look up for it.
Mm.
They didn't look ready for the fight. They didn't. There's often examples of them this season where they haven't looked like they know what they're doing. But from an effort and passion and fight perspective, generally speaking, they always give
Yeah.
100%. This weekend, straight from the word go, they just didn't look like they were aligned, understood the remit, understood what was in front of them and what it meant to the fans.
Yeah, get it. But I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about it in the second half when we talk about that. But I think it was, for me, Palace came out and they did want it. They did want to kind of put that fairy tale that's ended up happening, which is let's end our awful run in the best place possible. And I think it was two new players joining our team, a great opportunity to reset. I mean, and look, it could have, I think the thing with this is, like with every game, right? This could have been a completely different story if one of these early chances had gone in
Yeah.
from you. But I think we did have a little bit of, we had a bit of luck. We had a little bit of kind of things going our way. But one thing, just again, before we talk about these big moments, is that what I did like, and I don't know whether you agree with this, because it's very interesting from two different perspectives of the game. I said to Harry, my boy, probably about halfway through the first half, isn't it nice that the ref has kept his whistle in his pocket for a little bit?
Yeah.
I felt that he did allow the game to flow. And I mean, at that point, when I said that, neither of us had benefited from that happening, if that makes sense. It was still 0-0, but it didn't feel like he was going to over ref this game, which I quite liked.
I can understand that, especially from a Palace perspective, because I felt of all that first half, Palace were doing everything, and I can understand why, but they were doing everything to slow the game down, to go down, to have the time wasting at the goal kicks, the odd little sort of like flick and falling on the floor, like head injury that wasn't really a head injury. There were a few of those that I sort of accept an away team to do at any home ground. Like that's part of the game.
Yeah.
The frustration from a referee's point of view is a frustration that most home fans have every week with any referee, which is if you nip it in the bud early enough,
Yeah.
it won't be an issue, but you don't and you let it go on. And I think that was the only frustration I had with the referee. But having said that, you're quite right. He did let a lot of the fouls or, heavy tackling go. And I'm here for it. I'm okay with that.
Well, it just meant that there was an actual, because I mean, we were struggling anyway to put on a
Oh,
game. Let's be honest with
it was
you,
so
it
dull,
was
wasn't it?
reasonably grim at one point. And I think if he'd have started putting everybody up on every tackle that was going in, then I think it would have just been even more disjointed. And actually, from a Palace point of view, it obviously did turn into a bit of a game, and there were chances created at the end. But yeah,
No,
you
I
can go one
agree.
way or
So
another.
yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the probably two big chances. I say big, but the two chances of the first half, right? So there was one for Brighton around the 20-minute mark, I think it was, where we got a free kick at the edge of the box, and
Oh yeah,
Gross chucked it in the box, and Dunk had a head. And to be honest, he heads it wide, and I think he should be doing a lot better than that. That was the start of us going, well, where's the quality in our team? Because the head itself got on to the end of it, but he head it wide, and realistically, he should have done a hell of a lot better than that. I'm not suggesting he would have beaten Henderson, but it should have been on target.
well, yeah. I mean, look, firstly, Dunk does well because he runs in, doesn't he? Which is
Yeah,
why
yeah,
he was unmarked as such. He
yeah.
he ran in from outside the box for it. But I think the other thing to, obviously, yes, they're professional. It's a lovely pink ball there you got, by the way, Neil. Yes, they're professionals, but I think that it's not as easy as you think. In terms of what, when you replay it and you look at that one
Andy,
chance. No, no,
you
but
can't
bear
say
with me.
it's not as easy as you think.
Well, what the reason that I'm going to say that is because you've got Will Hughes and Lacroix, I believe, who are, but he is colliding with two individuals as he's jumping. So in essence, if he's aiming with his head, he's actually, his body's moving as he's actually trying to head it. So I think we, whilst that probably wouldn't go down from the outsiders, that was really well defended. Actually, they did enough to put him off and to get where they needed to be.
Yeah.
So, and that was the difference. This is what the theme of today is for Palace, really, which is about, we made that extra effort. We went for the tackle that we didn't think we were going to get.
They were up
And
for it, mate.
do you know what I
Palace.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Because previous games, mate, they would have seen Dunk go and they probably would have watched him and gave him a clap afterwards. But in this game, they went for it, which was lovely. So obviously, look, Dunk narrowly misses, and then I think that's the kind of, it's a bit of a warning shot for Palace. And then I think there's another one just over the half, well, the 30-minute mark, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Around that kind of time, which
This
was
was the
actually,
this was the bigger one, wasn't it, in my opinion? This was a better chance, I thought, with
well,
the De Kuyper.
statistically, the first actual shot on target in the game, 31 minutes.
Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it? Blimey. Yeah, so this was a good opportunity. It was well worked. I think the De Kuyper shot was after a lot of good movement, good passing, Matoma crossing the ball in low, etc. But I think the defenders did really well as well. I think, again, when you look at, if you took a still of when De Kuyper took the shot, there's like 5 defenders in his way and the goalkeeper. I mean, it was very good defending.
Well, yes. And do you know what my only take on this one is when you watch it back? Obviously, look, Matoma does brilliantly, right? He beats
Yeah.
his man, he gets that ball in, and it's that horrible ball for defenders, right? It goes straight past the keeper at kind of shin height, and it's bobbling in there. But I think what a lot of people have overlooked here is that Costulas uh, was the first one to have access to that ball and misses it completely.
Yep.
He should have that should have gone straight in,
Yeah,
and
I
any
agree.
other striker in that position, bit more experience, might have got it straight in. But then
Mhm.
obviously it then kind of gets bundled away, falls to De Kuyper, and then obviously Lacroix and Richards kind of managed to do what they used to do, which they've started doing now, which is just get in the way, and luck will help you. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean? Which
agree.
they
I
did.
agree. And I think this was part of the issue all game with Brighton and their lack of sort of energy and speed, where this was
Yeah.
the one opportunity where I think Matoma, to be fair to him, I think he had an okay game. I think most of the team had a poor game, but I thought he had an okay game. And I thought
Well, sat there
he's
watching it, Neil. Every time he got the ball, I was like, So
absolutely.
that tells you something.
Yeah, I
He had,
agree.
he
And
had that spark to him where he could
yeah,
beat a man.
yeah, I think you're right. And I think Matoma, he's coming back from a very long injury and he has had a few games to get up to speed and it's promising to see him starting to get back up to his normal speed. I would say he's playing at about 85%. He just needs to keep going and he'll get better. So
Yeah.
that was the one promising thing I thought from that first half, that it was nice to see Matoma doing a little bit and starting to look a little bit more like his old self. But ultimately, that was probably it for the first half, wasn't it?
Pretty much, mate. Pretty much. And I think, as I say, we didn't really create too many clear chances. There were a few that we haven't mentioned, but I think that the build up play and the way that we were dealing with you attacking,
Mm,
we were keeping a few of your key players at bay.
yep.
And it felt like the game plan was kind of okay. I didn't feel nervous going into half time. Does that make
No,
sense? I went into half time thinking, I think we're going to get at least a point here.
I went into halftime frustrated because the energy wasn't there. At the
Mm.
speed, the pace, that sort of energy that you need when you're at home to really put pressure on a team wasn't there. And all we were doing was what we normally been doing really, which is having the ball for the sake of having the ball and not doing anything with it. So I was slightly frustrated. There was a couple of tactical things that I would really want to look at and change, and I'll show you that a little bit later when we get to the end of the game.
Mm.
But yeah, went into halftime frustrated and thinking maybe this is just going to be a boring 0-0 again.
Yeah. I mean, I was praying for a change. And
Right.
because I said when I saw the lineup, in fact, we were kind of, well, we were stood next to our seats before the game, and obviously talking about who was playing and my thoughts on Pino playing this game. You know my thoughts on Pino playing this game. Pino's got a place, right? But I'm not sure if his place is an intense physical
Sure.
derby, rivalry, whatever you want to call it. And it didn't feel like the right fit. He wouldn't have time on the ball to be able to do the things he wants to
Yeah.
do, and he's kind of a little bit off it at the moment anyway. Not hating on the guy, but just actually let's all play to our strengths.
Mm.
So I think when I saw him in there, I was a bit like, he's going to get knocked off the ball. And I think you referred to it earlier about being on the floor a
Yeah.
lot. A lot of that was him because genuinely he fell over, i.e., got knocked over because he goes over like a sack of spuds, Neil.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of that actually was play acting. I think he just spent a lot of time on the floor, mate, because he just keeps getting pushed off the ball.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that was my kind of real wish, was that I believe that the game would only change, truthfully, if he was swapped out for someone who could make a bit of a change. And that's not disrespectful to Pino. It was more of a tactical move, which is we've got to be a bit more combative. We've got to go at him a bit more. And it's less about the footwork, more about just break through. So yeah, that was where I was going.
That's fair. That's fair. So second half starts
Yep.
and same old really for the first 15, well, 12 minutes or so. The first sort of that first 10 minutes back in, not much changes. The same sort of pattern of play from both teams. And
Yep.
I think that's a really good point as to show how poor Brighton were, because most of this season, if we've had a poor first half, we've come out and shown something straight away. We've shown either an energy change, or we've made changes, or something as like you said earlier, that spark, something happened.
Yeah.
Nothing at all when we came out, and that was worrying. That was really worrying, and it took, I think, well, you got the first change, didn't you? Guassan came on.
Yeah.
Was
He
that
had his debut.
56 minutes he came on?
That's right. And again, that is unheard of, Neil. That is unheard of from a Glasner perspective, because Glasner would not normally make any changes until at least 84 minutes or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Every now and again, we might get a late 70s or whatever, but 56 minutes, I think, showed the progress that we've made potentially in terms of actually having a bench. And obviously, I think he saw what we all saw, which
Mm.
was actually Pino ain't making the impact. And I mean, look, in terms of Pino's stats, it weren't bad. Like, he was, his passing rate and all the other bits and pieces, but he's on that pitch for creativity, right? And you only keep that place if you're being creative and creating the chances, and
Well,
that the chances seem to be going around him, not from him.
yeah, and I think the game was set out, wasn't it, very easily, that how we probably thought it was going to go at the beginning, it did go that way, in the sense
Yeah.
that Brighton had all the ball, didn't do much with it. Palace were ready on the counter attack. So I think, yeah, I mean, Guessen, I thought, was a good move. I thought it was a good move to bring him
Oh,
on from that perspective. And,
mate, it was a masterstroke. It was
yeah.
an absolute masterstroke,
So
because
go on, let's just talk it through.
well,
Just
well,
get
let's
it done. Come on.
Well, I think the point being, the reason it was a masterstroke was because all of 5 minutes later, after Gessam being on the pitch, he did what the whole team were doing, actually, which was, if Brighton were playing it round and for some unknown reason wanted to keep the possession and get that lovely stat at the end of it. However, there was a lot of loose balls going on. There was a lot of misplaced passes. There was a lot of, but then also there would be, right? Because we found that intensity that we'd lost since December, and we were pressing. We were on your heels. If you got the ball, there was a player in front of you and behind you trying to
Yeah.
get that ball back from you. And I think that was what I loved from Gessan, because he was doing, and even if, like, there was a couple of occasions on his debut, he kind of lost the ball a bit, or he tried to beat someone or whatever. And then he was tracking straight back again, going, "Nah, I'm getting it back," which is just lovely, absolutely lovely to see.
The goal, right? Let's talk about the goal for a minute, because obviously I'm going to talk about Dunk for a second.
Yeah.
And you can then talk about the actual quality of the finish and the goal itself, right? So this situation, this example of us conceding this goal, is a microcosm. It's a perfect example of everything that's wrong with Hurzeler ball, in my opinion, right?
Okay.
Because we've had these situations before, and I've highlighted them, and it's the same situation again. We have got a situation where a ball is in the air, our last defender is just about to contact with the ball in some way, right?
Mm.
His decision to head it back in field when he is almost in the left back position, let's be honest. He's in that
Yeah.
far end of the field, right? And he's trying to keep it in play. That is a mentality, because we want to play and keep the ball and all of that sort of thing. And there are occasions, lots of them, where Dunk has done this perfectly. I don't have a problem with the concept of it. But in your experience of 34 years, however old Dunk is, 33 years, there are moments and there are games where you choose what to do with that ball, okay?
Yeah.
So he decides to head it straight back into the mix, let's put it back into the midfield. And it's a terrible header, and it goes, obviously, to a player of the Palace for persuasion, right? Now, at that point, mate, this is the example that I want to show, right? And it's something that happened at Bournemouth, and it's something that's happened in other games. We've lost possession of the ball. There are now only two defenders between the attacker and the goal, right? Those two defenders are scrambling because they're not in the right positions, obviously. One of them is Dunk, who's halfway in the air still and then trying to turn. The other one is Kadioglu. There is clearly some tactic, and there is clearly some instruction from the manager. When we lose the ball, go to the ball and chase. Now, there doesn't seem to be any amendment to that rule. It seems to be whatever the situation, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Now, that's where I struggle, because in that situation, both defenders, all they had to do was run back, not run towards the ball. Run back.
Yeah.
Give the attacker something to think about. But no, Dunk tries to go for the ball, then realizes he's not going to get there, so starts running back. So that little split second of thinking
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the ball is what's given him an extra yard, the attacker. Ferdi Kadioglu, who is in the centre-back position, runs towards the ball. And it's like, just stop. Just go back. Wait. See what happens. And that gives your lad an opportunity. You take it from here.
Well, after the assist from Dunk, obviously Gessan picks up that loose ball and does just brilliantly. And it was just, mate, it's lovely to see the fact that a Palace player has got the vision in that position just to play someone in who and bearing in mind these two haven't played together yet, right? They're a week in. And Gessan picks up that loose ball and he plays it into a completely unmarked Sarr in the middle, right? Because obviously Sarr's already
gone to the ball and left him. That's the point.
Yeah, but also Sarr's already got the run on the defenders because he was looking. I mean, this is what Sarr does when Sarr is good, right? When Sarr's on form and also when Sarr's playing Brighton. This is what he does, right? And it was perfect. I think what Sarr's been missing is the person to make the assist recently. So I think the way that Gessan set that up was, to me, it was almost as good as the goal.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, from where I was stood, I completely misunderstood what had happened in this situation. I'd lost the ball because it was quite a long way to the other end, right?
Yeah.
I'd lost the ball and I was waiting for the net to bulge. The net bulged. Everyone went mad. And I didn't really care how we'd scored it. And then it wasn't until I watched the replay afterwards, when I got home, that I realised that kind of Sarr did have a choice. I thought it was a tap-in. It was nowhere near a tap-in.
No.
There was actually more distance between the goal and the player than I thought. So I think he did really well. And obviously your keeper nearly got it.
Almost hit him on the head. Like he came close. Yeah. He almost closed it down quick enough. Didn't quite work. And, Palace 1-0 up, doing exactly what they needed to do, sitting on the counter, waiting for Brighton to make a mistake. And, I mean, having Sarr back these last few weeks, I know you haven't been winning games, but him getting back into the team, it's a perfect opportunity for him, isn't it? That is exactly what he waits for in your formation, in your tactics, to be in that situation, streaming away from the defenders with a one-on-one.
Mate, it's infuriating, right? When you've got all of the information in your head, and the people around you that don't have all the information in their head make assumptions and go, what's going on at Palace?
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going on at Palace? Mate, we haven't got any players. This is what's going on at Palace. The team you've just beaten is not Palace. It's a quarter Palace and the rest of the youth team. And it's like, now you've got the team out and you've got that philosophy back up and running and everyone's kind of cooking on gas. There's an element of form to it, but most of it is actually about the fact that the big backbone of the team we were missing is back. And I think it's now quite apparent that potentially a lot of the people's opinion on what that backbone was might be a little bit different, because I don't think we missed Mateta on Sunday, and also didn't particularly miss Gahey. Truthfully, I thought the defence did a brilliant job.
I'll call you up on that one. I don't think that the defence had anything to do, apart from that one shot earlier that we talked about where, De Kuyper, they didn't have much to do. Brighton were awful up front. Awful.
I go back to you on that one and say that, yes, you were bad, right? You were bad, and you know that. But I think that our defenders, Lerma specifically, and Lacroix, if you have a look back at that game and watch it, and I did today actually a couple of times before this pod, because I wanted to make sure that I was saying the right things. And if you look at when the balls were being played forward, every single time that they were going to get to your attackers or midfielders in attacking position, one of our defenders was in front of your attacker. They were jumping higher. They were taking. Do you get what I mean? So I think in terms of tactically, they whether it looked amazing like what Gahey used to do or whatever, positionally that they played a lot of your team out very subtly.
Listen. I was going to talk about this later. Let's talk about it now because you brought it up, and I think this is a really good point, right? So tactics. Let me show you something. Right, this is. Let me just press these buttons.
when Neil says, let me show you something on live stream, it's a bit of a concern. So let's see
No,
what
that's
happens
my
here.
other account. It's fine. Right.
Okay.
Look, hopefully you can see this now. Right. So this,
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
so look at us, right? So this is how we set up when we have the ball at a goal kick, right? Now, the important thing here, and the reason why there's lines on this pitch, is to show you how Palace are countering that, okay? And realistically, look at exactly what they are in. They are in a 3 across the back.
Yeah.
They're in a 4 and then a 3. Simple as that.
Yeah.
A narrow 3, but that's exactly their formation. This is exactly Palace's formation. And we are letting them be exactly in their formation, right?
Yeah.
The issue here I have with all of this are these two players up here. These two players here are our wingers, right? And we are deciding tactically that we want to put our wingers on their central defenders. Now, the issue I have with this is that we are making Palace not have to do anything to change the way that they play. The issue here is that these players should be here, right? This is where they should be, in these areas. And there's a reason for that. Because, as you can see at the moment, if they move wide and they get out to these boxes, then the defenders have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all that happens. They have a decision to make. And what I mean by that is you've got the centre back or the wing back has to come back and cover in some way. If the wing back comes back, you've created space here for our attacking fullbacks to move into, and you've created space and triangles. If the winger comes back here and the central defender comes across, you've created space in the middle for the midfield to move up into. There are so many options, but no, we want to stay narrow and we want to keep the Palace defenders in their positions. The whole point of having formations and tactics is to stop the Palace doing exactly what they always do. Create something new and create problems for Palace. But this was putting them exactly where they need to be. And that was my biggest frustration in the whole game. Anyway, I'll stop sharing that now. But that to me is exactly why these tactics that we're playing of putting Matoma narrowly in that little number 10 area, that narrow winger, is just literally playing into what Palace do every week. So why do it? Such a struggle.
Well, I mean, credit to them. They probably haven't seen it in the whole of December or January. So they thought, well, if they haven't been doing it for a couple of months, maybe we can play our game.
Yeah.
But no, I think, mate, look, let's be honest. Your boy Hurzeler, he's come up against his, and he's already said about the fact that he looks to Glasner as a mentor and an inspiration. He's said that a few times. Which you can understand because obviously there's a bit of an age difference and Glasner's got a certain style and all the other bits and pieces. He's come up against him 4 times. He's lost 3 and drawn 1.
Listen, this is not a surprise. You know, there is clearly some areas that are deficient in Fabian Hurzeler in the way that he does it. He's inexperienced. We all knew that though when we signed up to this. So we shouldn't be surprised then when there's things that aren't quite finished about him. Look, we let's go back to the game quickly. Let's just finish off, right? So,
well, I think the next one is the Kostulas 1-on-1. Probably, I would go as far as to say the most clear-cut chance of the whole game. Actually, more so than our goal. Obviously, what was it? I mean, it was a great ball.
I'm not sure it was more clear-cut than Sarr's goal. Surely he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. This was a bit more of an angle, but I take your point. It was on par. Let's say.
I would say, okay, on par. I mean, the ball through from Ruta was superb.
Yeah, it was the only thing he did all day. But yeah, I agree. It was a lovely pass, and Kostulas 1-on-1 really with the keeper. Defender was trying to close him down. I think the difficulty with this one was just the angle that he was running in on, and he's right-footed, and he wants to try and finish it with his right. And look, hopefully he'll learn from it. It wasn't the best shot. He was on target, which is tick. It was on target, but it was a bit of a weak shot in the end of it. Henderson did well, got his foot out to it. But you know something, Andy, with that opportunity, that was our second shot on target, and that was on 61 minutes. And at that point, That's where our shots on target ended. An
Yeah, it
hour.
did.
And then from then on, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
But that's also where we kind of kicked in. I would go as far as to say, by the way, Costulas, all he had to do was cut in. He had, if he'd cut in,
Yep.
if that had been Welbeck in that position, that would have been 1-1. But
I agree.
anyway, look, we won't worry about that. But no, I think that's where we did kick in, and we'd gained confidence. I think the one thing, and I have to be really careful what I say here. I have to be really careful because I wouldn't normally have to be careful. But obviously, I'm talking about the other half of the podcast team now. So, and
on,
the
what?
supporters. But, well, I was really disappointed with the Brighton fans, mate. Felt as if the atmosphere in that stadium, it might as well have been a home game in the second half, Palace.
Listen,
I think you, as a collective, have got a choice. When you're raging about the situation at your club, I think truthfully, I think your fans almost helped us, is the truth of the matter, because you let us have the noise, you let us have the atmosphere. And I think that as your fans grew more angry and started showing discontent, and also there was points the Palace fans were shushing just so that everybody could hear the utter silence in the whole stadium.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. All I could hear was seagulls,
mate, listen,
at one point.
Listen, right? There is a reason for this
Mad.
silence, and we've talked about it over the last few weeks, right? Well, months now. I've talked about it like till I'm blue in the face, and it's the same thing over and over again. We cannot get to a point where we are watching what we're watching every week.
Yeah.
Yes, we're managing to get a point here, or we're winning a game late. Okay, yeah, we're getting the points from time to time. We're not now, right? We're not getting the points anymore. That's left us as well. And that was never important in the first place. It was watching what we're watching.
Yeah.
And Sunday was the first time I have seen that type of noise and that type of negativity probably since 2014 and a 6-month reign of Sami Hyypiä, that literally every fan in Brighton will understand why that ended like that, right? That we're not like that. That's not us, right? And so this is the point. The fact that we were like that indicates how many people now feel the same way. And it's really interesting because, I've been talking about it for a long time, and Sunday was the first time I really audibly heard, like we all did, and it was on TV, getting sacked in the morning.
Who started that, though? Because that wasn't the Palace fans that started that.
No,
which was
North
interesting.
North Stand.
Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Brighton fans.
We joined in.
Yeah, of course.
But, I mean, it was...
No, this is our fans, Andy, singing it. And the other thing, just to point out, I think it was about 70-odd minutes, Hurzeler brings off Belabor, right?
Oh, mate, there was audible boos.
I mean, audible boos, right? And there's nothing to suggest that Belabor was knackered after 70 minutes of football, right? Maybe when we get to 85, I could understand it, right? De Kuyper, who actually... I've said quite a few times on this pod that he's not up to it. I thought he was one of the few players that played pretty well on Sunday for Brighton.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And he was really annoyed that he was coming off. I mean, I think the camera caught him swearing and stuff. Like, he was annoyed. He had to walk round. But Belabor coming off, that was the first instance where we got the real big boos and you don't know what you're doing. And I've never heard a Brighton stadium do that.
Yeah.
Fans do that
Do you know what? I think that's the thing, though, because I think you don't know what you're doing and the boos is one thing in it. It's like you make that decision to go, actually, we've had enough now and we need everybody to understand that we've had enough. I think my point of it was more about the fact that during that second half, you could tell everybody in that stadium was getting so frustrated, and it just felt like you allowed us that opportunity to have a home game away.
Yeah.
And jokes aside, I haven't seen an atmosphere from Palace like that. And sorry to say it, but the last party we had like that was at Wembley. And I mean, mate, I think it was about 73 minutes. There was a guy that was stood on, like the front 2 rows of your away section are covered in like a plastic sheeting with a sponsor on. Someone's clearly paid a lot of money for that sponsor bit. But obviously, because it had been raining, there was it was basically like a little pond, like a sponsored pond in front between the goal and the first row. And obviously, as the goal was scored, there was a few people that couldn't contain themselves. And to be fair, they did behave themselves. They were a bit raucous, but they behaved themselves. They stayed in their section, but they were celebrating. And this guy decided to stay in the pond and have a swim. So he was celebrating, doing front crawl up and down this sponsored board, which was brilliant. And I think that it was a lovely atmosphere. But I was a little bit shocked about how there wasn't particularly a response. In the first half, there was a response from the Brighton fans. You tried to give us a little bit of jip and all the other bits and pieces. In the second half, you gave up.
I think that's exactly what it is, mate. I think it is. I think
Yeah.
I think a lot of fans have just got to the point of like, we have to do something to make sure that people at the club understand how we're feeling. And there was a tweet on Sunday evening from Andy Naylor, who is
Okay.
the Athletics
Mm.
reporter. He's followed Brighton for many, many years, like 30 odd years, right? So he was at the Evening Argus before that. He's at the Athletic now.
Yeah.
And he I won't go over his quote exactly word for word, but basically he was making the point that you can boo all you want, all this sort of stuff, but saying that someone's losing their job in the morning is, the line, and it's disgusting and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, I think Andy Naylor, of all people, should understand how respectful normally Brighton fans are, and he should understand the mood and go, if Brighton fans are doing this, that's a surprise. Like, if Brighton fans are doing what they're doing and making these noises and saying what they're saying, something is clearly wrong, rather than throwing it back to the fans and telling them what they should be feeling. They can do what they
Mm.
want. They pay their money and they can say what they want, right? We all can. Yes, there are certain lines, and they're to do with racism and other things, but actually saying something like they were singing about someone losing their job in the morning is just highlighting the fact that majority now of Brighton fans in that stadium were not happy with Fabian Hurzeler being our manager.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, look, if he loses his job in the morning, he's still going to get paid until the end of his contract. So,
He'll be
you know,
fine.
it's a little bit, it's not like me saying someone in the office, you're getting sacked in the morning because they
Yeah.
might be down the dole.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a bit of a different situation. I get it. Look, yeah, I mean, look, we're 73 minutes into this game now.
Yeah,
And it's taken us 73 years to get through
Yeah,
it.
sorry, mate.
But
You
don't
carry on
worry.
now. You finish off, because I think you should
Well,
finish off this, a lot of it, because I think Palace were by far obviously the better team. So go for it.
Well, at this point, it was clear we were, I
Yeah.
think. First half, I think it was still a little bit anyone's game.
Yeah,
But
go for it.
73 minutes in, we've got Matey Boy swimming in the pond behind the goal. We've got the Palace fans chanting, how crap are you, because we haven't won a game in however long, and all of that sort of stuff. And the Brighton fans literally just sitting there crying, I think is probably the best way to describe it. And it was sad to see, actually, to be brutally honest. I didn't take any pleasure in that.
I'm sure.
And then I think, look, Walton really kind of came into his own in this second half as well, right? You got Lerma, the warrior, but Walton kind of was starting to really. I felt like you were giving him a little bit more space than you should have been doing, and giving him a little bit more opportunity to play them forward balls. He played in Strand Larsen, who was, I'll talk about him in a minute, but he ended up kind of on a one-on-one situation, but there was a defender in the way, so it wasn't at all. And he kind of ended up, like when you get that and you got the option when you first get the ball to run straight towards the goal, or you can go to the right or to the left. And he ended up going to the right. He ended up on a really big angle. I mean, he absolutely pelted it, but obviously your keeper did really, really well to get down there in the near post. So, I mean, that was a good opportunity. XG says he shouldn't have scored it anyway, so it was fine. So it's not down on the Mateta misses scale here. And then I think 90 plus 4 was when Verbruggen made an even better save, actually. It was a lovely 1-2. And this was where as you were melting down, I was actually sitting there going, do you know what? We might be all right here. Our season might be back. Like, Europe, is that back on? And hang on a minute, Burnley next up, then Wolves. Hang on, we could be, So it was a beautiful 1-2 between Muniz and Strand Larsen, ends in this, a good save, a really good save, actually. I think he made it look easy, is the truth of the matter. So I think Strand Larsen was unfortunate, actually, I think, not to get a debut goal. I just thought it was really reassuring from a Palace perspective about how the link-up play between Strand Larsen, Muniz, Wharton, Gessand was already starting to pay dividends,
Yeah, I agree.
actually, in that respect. So, look, final whistle went. I was waiting for the predictable. I wasn't getting too excited, mate, because I was waiting for that predictable last minute ditch effort that you lot normally would do one way or another, either let two in or score one. But yeah, it didn't really come. But I think we played the time down quite well, actually, as well.
Yeah, I mean, the one last thing, mate, on that, right? The last literally like 3 minutes of that game,
Yeah.
Palace played really well managing the minutes. They got corners. They did really well. They kept the ball up the other end. It was very
Yep.
good from that perspective. The other thing to note is I have no clue the formation that we were playing. We had Dunk up front. We had no
Yeah.
left back, nothing. Like we had one defender. We had four midfielders, and they were either in the back line or up front. And it was just a mess. And I think no one there watching that game, and this has been like this for the last few weeks now, no one there
Mm.
watching that game ever felt we were getting back into it. The last few weeks we've been lucky and we've got the odd goal or something, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that Sunday just never felt like it. And most people had left long before that. I noticed as well, like a lot of people had left their seats long before the final whistle, and that's another thing that is a problem. People just leaving because there's nothing to
Mate,
entertain them.
they were clearing out. They were clearing out from about 80
I
minutes.
agree.
I mean, people had already gone by 70 odd minutes, but I think, yeah, there wasn't many people left there for extra time. And I think what I heard audibly from the away section over to from the home section, I think it was from the family stand, there was two or three unyobbish, very normal looking people,
Well,
actually.
we are
Um,
relatively normal.
Oh no, I know, but you expect this sort of thing to come from someone wearing a North Face jacket
What did they
or
say?
whatever. But they basically said, well, I'll give you the clean version. Why have you put Dunk up front? We're playing long balls, and you've got your slowest man in the position
Yeah.
where you need someone with speed. And I think it was ended with clueless, and it was like two or three people kind of all shouting the same thing. And I think that kind of decision is how you get you're getting sacked in the morning from your own crowd.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it all ended up. Do you want to hear my talking points in terms of
Yeah, keep it quick. Yeah.
why I think?
Let's do
Yeah.
it. What we got?
So I think the new signings made a difference.
Yeah.
Right, and they did. Strand Larsen looked brilliant in terms of he looked sharp. He was hustling all over the pitch. Even in the first minute of the game, you could tell that he was going to bring more to the party than Mateta had been, all given an injury and all that. I don't know whether you noticed this, but he was throwing himself all over the place. Every time the ball went back to your keeper had a lot less time to be able to clear it if he was playing that last defender role, if that makes sense. And I'll be honest with you, there was a few of them where he only just managed to clear it before Larson kind of lunged in. I think he actually did get one rebound on it as well. So I think the pressure that he was putting on was great. He was really good in the air, a really good hold up play, and I thought that he did. You know, you were talking to me about how he's actually quite a good fit for a Mateta replacement in the respect that he brings as much, in midfield and also in defending set pieces and all the other bits and pieces. I like the look of him, and I loved how he said he came off the pitch and he said something along the lines of, "That's the most intense game I've ever played," which is just what you want to hear, innit? It was lovely. Gessand, I like him. Made an immediate impact when he came on. He got an assist on his first game. He's got the ability to beat a player, which we just haven't had for the last month, Neil. And it's just lovely to see your team playing in a style that actually we became iconic for, with Zaha and Eze and Elisa.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've finally got a player that represents, I don't know, I mean, he clearly is not from South London, I don't think, or has never lived there. But he is now one of our own, and he's going to play like the people that have been born and bred through our academy and all the others, and kind of that iconic player. He's got an eye for a good through ball. He's a hustler, and he was getting his foot everywhere. And I really like the guy. And also, he seems like a really nice bloke. Same with Strand Larsen. After the game, getting involved in all of the stuff that Lacroix gets involved in with the crowd and all that kind of stuff. My question is Gessand the new Eze? I think he might be.
Wow, big call. Okay.
Give him
Okay.
time, but I think he might be. Pino disappointed again. We talked about that. Lerma was immense. Playing in defence, he was immense. That rhymes. 12 duels run, 58 touches, 4 key tackles. He was everywhere, mate. Hughesy was exactly what you'd expect.
You're going to run through
He
the
was
whole team, Andy.
No, this is the last one. He was exactly what you'd expect for a Brighton game. Physical, aggressive, and booked, which is exactly what you'd expect. Was very glad that Glasner took him off when he did, because let's be honest, he would not have lasted the whole game. There is no way. I think he was one slide tackle away from the tunnel at one point, is the truth of the matter. And as I said, look, mate, most importantly, the intensity returned, the work rate returned, and in turn, the belief returned. I think I'm filled with optimism. As I said now, I'm ready for the rest of the season. And I think I've seen a game, we've all been there, Neil, but I've seen a game that shows me that we've still got it and that it is still there. And that just because Glasner's leaving, I think we can still, be it a better league position or be it there's no cup run to be had apart from Europe now for us. But I feel like we've got a good chance of doing that. But yeah, that's for me about the game.
Well, okay. Listen, I suppose we should just round up what that means from a table perspective. So,
Has it made a difference?
it has made a difference. So, Crystal Palace has now moved up to 13th place. They are on 32 points. They're very. It means also that Brighton have moved down, as we know, to 14th place, 31 points. And I need to tell you that 18th position is West Ham, and the gap is still a healthy 8 points. But we do need to talk about the next few fixtures and things, Andy. I think we'll take a break, then we'll cover off some news, and then we probably should talk about the next fixtures. What do you think?
Well, I think you're in trouble, Neil. Let's talk about it.
Okay, mate.
Yeah. Back after the break.
I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I will be in trouble.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
How are you, Neil?
I'm all right
after that.
Yeah, I've calmed
down. Well done,
down.
mate. You got through it. Well done. Well
Honestly.
done. Can I take this opportunity just to mention the fact that as we've stated that I went to your home of football,
yes,
as a guest and had a lovely day out. Thank you. And you obviously had hospitality, and I do feel for you. I genuinely felt awful for you at the end of that day. I was like, it's a special birthday treat, and it's been ruined by what happened on the pitch. But you did say you had a nice time.
I did.
The
it was
other
wonderful.
side of it.
Yeah, it was lovely service, great food. Everything inside the stadium was wonderful. Just the bit out on the grass is the problem we need to sort out.
Yeah, and so the upshot of all of that was that we had agreed that you were going to meet me and my son.
Yeah.
You and Lindsay were going to meet me and my son in the fan zone afterwards, and we were going to have a drink. So because obviously there was no point leaving and sitting in your car and queuing for an hour. So I messaged you after the game, and I didn't even stick the boot in, Neil. I didn't even mention anything about. In fact, actually, I didn't realise, but I didn't even reply to your messages throughout the second half because I was too busy chewing my fingernails, I think, at that point. And then I checked my phone and I was like, are we still meeting up? And I won't say exactly what you said, but the essence of it was, I'm too annoyed to meet up.
I have to apologise, Andy. I really do, because it's not very grown up of me, and there's not many occasions football gets me that annoyed and that riled up. But the idea of seeing your face after that final whistle, after everything that had happened, I don't think I just couldn't take it.
Mate, do you know what? You've underestimated it, because obviously I would have been sat in the fan zone. So if I'd have stuck a boot in, I would have ended up with a boot in.
That's a good point.
From multiple angles. Yeah. Also, I just wanted you to know that I genuinely have not let out a yelp of laughter that hard when I read your message. It was the way that you'd written it and the expletives that you'd used. And bad parenting here, but I showed it straight to my son, even with all the bad language, because he'd heard worse in the game from the Brighton fans. Together, we literally fell to the floor laughing, surrounded by Brighton fans, to which I left it 5 minutes and then I phoned you and offered you a lift home.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, it was really great.
As we were walking past about 10,000 angry Brighton fans waiting for the train.
Listen, let's stop talking about it, because I'm just going to get more worried again. Right, before we talk about the next fixtures and some other things, is there anything else you wanted to cover off?
We'll do is Is it time to talk about Dwight McNeil's wife and how annoyed she is?
Yes. So last week, obviously, transfer window, we were talking as the window was shutting, and we didn't mention Dwight McNeil because it was all a bit of a strange. We mentioned it and I edited it out because I wasn't sure what was going on with it. I didn't want to sort of preempt anything. But now, obviously, we need to talk about it because, well, Palace had an offer accepted, I believe.
In essence, what actually happened was that we made a lot of bids, as it's now come out on transfer deadline day. Apparently 4 or 5 bids for defenders to replace Gahey, which apparently audacious bids as well. Big bids. We're going to spend even more money.
It's easy to do that last day of the window, though, isn't it? Because no one's going to say yes, probably.
Yep. And obviously none of the people were willing to let them go on deadline day. So I think after the last one of these big bids was rejected, we then went, okay, fine. Who can we get over the line? Dwight McNeil is one of the ones that Glasner wanted. I think he gives a different foot in terms of our options on the pitch. And so therefore they put in a deal for 20 million and then they were negotiating it all. It looked like it was something that was going to happen. He booked a medical. His wife was planning their new house and all the other bits and pieces. And then negotiations then went on. They put in a deal sheet to extend, so that they could carry on going. And the terms were being renegotiated during that. And I think because of the fact that obviously the Mateta thing happened in the dying minute, by all account, what I've made out of it from what I've heard is that because of the fact that we'd now bought Strand Larsen, Mateta was still in the building, we didn't get the 35 mil that we were expecting to get from him. That kind of changed things, and we were looking to change it to a loan with an option to buy, which I think Everton were game for, and that was fine, but we ran out of road. And obviously, poor old Dwight McNeil and his wife were very unhappy, and his wife's come out on social media and said how disgusting it was and how disgusting Palace are for the way that they were treated and so on. So, I'm really sorry, Mrs. McNeil, on behalf of Crystal Palace. I mean, it's not ideal situation for the McNeil.
It's not. No, it's not. And I've got nothing against the girlfriend. She's just backing up her man, and I totally understand that. And it must be horrible from an emotional perspective.
Yeah.
But these things do happen.
So that didn't end up happening.
And then what was the other thing you said you wanted to mention earlier? Something about VAR.
So only this afternoon, actually. This one's kind of flown under the radar, and we won't go on about it for too long. But do you remember the whole when we reviewed the Chelsea game and poor old Canvo ended up with this kind of ridiculous announcement being made about him, saying that
handball penalty thing.
He's accidentally handballed it, and because it was accidental, we didn't get. The good thing is you haven't been sent off, but we have still got to give a penalty and let Chelsea win the game.
So bizarre.
Today there's been an announcement from the Key Match Incidents, KMI, who's someone that I haven't heard of before.
New one.
Up until this moment.
Right.
But apparently there's a KMI panel, and they've announced today that Chelsea should not have been awarded the penalty for handball in their 3-1 win at Crystal Palace last month.
No shit, Sherlock.
Exactly. The KMI panel felt the VAR intervention was incorrect because Canvo is not making his body unnaturally bigger. So basically all that stuff that I read out about how they'd misinterpreted this rule is actually, for the first time in my entire life, Neil, I have actually been correct about interpreting rules. Gives me a little bit of credibility for moaning at refs in this podcast. So, basically what they're saying was that he didn't make his body bigger, and also there was a deflection off the hip, which, of course, I mean, it's obvious.
We were talking about it. It's literally very obvious it came off his hip. So what's that? How is he going to be able to move his arm out of the way that quickly?
I know, mate. So the full statement said basically the VR intervention and final outcome after the on-field review, which resulted in a penalty and a yellow card for a non-deliberate handball offence that denied an obvious goal, longest sentence ever, was considered to be incorrect. So I can only assume that Matey Boy, who I'm not a big fan of, the referee, has now probably had some kind. I think they're on a point system, aren't they? About how many decisions they get that are wrong and all this kind of stuff. I would imagine he's kind of taken a bit of a hit for that. But the good news is for Palace fans is that they've taken the 3 points off Chelsea and awarded them to Palace. Oh no, that doesn't happen. So yes, the fact that whole game got away from us because of his incompetence doesn't affect us, but it just means that potentially they might think again about giving him a big game to referee, or even Chelsea game to referee, or a Palace game. But there we go. I think
Okay.
it's good to revisit these things because it gives us a little bit of sanity by the fact that we're not losing our minds.
No,
Doesn't it?
and it is good that they can go back and they can make these decisions and say, well, you know what, this was right, this was wrong, and these sorts of things. And
Yeah.
like you say, it's frustrating at the time, but at least they're owning up to the fact that they've made a mistake. So that's
Yeah.
one slight positive, maybe.
No, I'm with you.
All right, listen. Just before we finish, we should probably talk about upcoming fixtures.
Yeah.
So the first thing to say is there's midweek fixtures. So by the time you're watching this or listening to this, the first game might have already happened. But let's talk about them just very quickly. So Palace, Wednesday, same night as Brighton are playing. Wednesday, the 11th of February. Palace, you are at home to Burnley. So there's 3 points.
Travelling up to London for this game. Very much looking forward to it because it'd be the first game in a while that we might actually have a chance of winning and walking out of Selhurst Park without kicking a can on the way home. Or
easy 3 points.
Well, you say that, but
Yeah, I
we do like a banana skin. I really
Andy,
hope
even Brighton have got 3 points against Burnley. There are only 3 points we've got in the last 12 games.
Mate, if Sunday was anything to go by, as I've just said to you, I think that we have set ourselves up beautifully for our run, which we're about to have. We've got Burnley at home, and then we've got our European away leg, right, which is winnable. Yeah. And then what's our next game? Wolves. With Strand Larsen, who's got a point to prove. So, yes, at best, that should be 9 points. Well, a first win leg away for Europe and 6 points in the Premier League.
Yeah, I get you.
And 6 points in the Premier League, you do some mash, my friend, that takes us firmly into the top 10 if a few results go our way. And we know damn well that if a team picks up 6 points, they're moving up 3 or 4 places, if not more, because everyone's taking points off everyone else. If the gods are on our side over the next week or so, this could actually make or break our season. So I feel like we've come into form potentially at the right time here.
Well, we'll wait and see. I mean, it's only one game, Andy. Don't get carried away. You still might have a good chance of losing everything. So,
mate, it's Palace. We probably will.
Brighton, things are going to go from really bad to probably terrible. So we have Aston Villa away at Villa.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we're always terrible anyway against Villa. We never win. The last game we played there last season, we managed somehow to get a draw, but that's the first point we've got at Villa for a very long time. The fact that we're playing Villa and then we have the FA Cup game on the weekend, which is Liverpool, obviously, Anfield, brilliant. So not like you need anything really good to go your way. You've got Liverpool. All right, mate. Who have you got on Saturday?
I was about to say this, mate.
Who have you got, Andy?
We don't. We've got a bit of a rest for a change because we won it last year. But I was going to say the only thing you've got there against us is at least you got someone to play. We didn't get that far.
Yeah.
But mate,
well, we'll turn up. We'll turn up and we'll see.
Do you know
what?
Happens, I genuinely wish you all the best, mate. Look, the only difference is with a cup game, anything can happen. And let's see what happens. Liverpool might make some stupid decisions and play some of the kids. But then again, Hurzeler will do the same anyway.
He'll change his 11 no matter what. So the only reason I brought that up is because, there's a lot of talk on social media, nothing from anyone else, but on social media about obviously Fabian Hurzeler's security, job security. So we've got Villa on Wednesday, probably not going to get anything from that. We've got Liverpool on Saturday, probably not going to get anything from that. Okay, so we'll be out of the FA Cup. We'd have lost to Villa. Then we've got Brentford away. Brentford are flying at the moment, right? They are gunning for Europe. They are absolutely amazing. They just beat Newcastle at St James's, right? So there is a very strong chance we won't get anything from that as well. Okay?
Yeah.
You know what then comes? Nottingham Forest. And by that point, Nottingham Forest, I think they've got to play like Burnley, I think, and someone else. So there is a very real chance that in 3 games' time, 2 league games, 1 FA Cup game, we'll be out of the FA Cup and we could possibly be sitting in 17th place. There is a chance, right? And I just wonder what will happen with our manager. Generally speaking, we don't sack our managers in the season. We wait till the end of the season and then we agree to part ways, right? But this is starting to get a little bit hairy, mate.
Well, Do you know what you've got to hope? If all that situation happens, you've got to hope that West Ham don't get anything at Man United. And obviously that bloke's waiting for a haircut, isn't he? So there's going to be a bit of pressure for Man United to win that 5th game in a row. It's not a great time to play them, but I guess if you've got that 5th game, there's a little bit of extra pressure there.
I think, I think you're right. I think we've got, what are we on now? 31 points, didn't we say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got to find 7 points, and I still think we'll find 7 points. Right?
I don't think you're going down.
No,
I think
don't.
That's going to take a perfect storm for you to go down.
I agree, and I think that's the only reason why I think Fabian Hurzeler will stay in his job until the end of the season, because there's so many other teams. There's at least 4 other teams I think that will be worse than Brighton, but that is not a way to move forward.
Oh, mate, look, it's absolutely not, and I think this is. But also, just put it into perspective, right? Palace have just won 1 game after the world's worst run, after the world's best run, and so on, right? So, like 1 game, and then now Palace are up in 13th, looking upwards, going, hang on a minute, we could be in the top 10 by next week, right? And that's 1 game. We got 3 points, right? Yeah. And it's amazing how quickly it turns. And I pretty much finish every podcast saying this. It's the craziest year ever. What I am a little bit concerned about is because only last week I was sitting and looking at West Ham going, oh my God, West Ham have won a game.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, they're only 3 points away from Nottingham Forest, and like truthfully, all we can bank on is Burnley and Wolves going down really right now. That 18th spot is still very much up for grabs, and what have you got in the mix there? You got Tottenham, who are below you, right? Yeah. Who ain't going to go down, are they?
They're not,
and you've got Leeds and Forest.
Yeah, I mean Tottenham have got lots of fixtures against the bottom teams, so there's a very strong chance, obviously, that they're not going down. Nottingham Forest and West Ham are the ones that I think are in the mix for it, and I still think Brighton are fine. I think that won't be an issue, and I think that's probably why there won't be any knee-jerk reactions from Tony Bloom or Paul Barber. But what I would say is it's not a nice place to be at the moment at the Amex, and Brighton have now got 3 away games in a row. That might cool things down a little bit as we move forward over the next week or two. When we play our next home game, which I think is, let's just double check who it is actually. It's Nottingham Forest, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Nottingham Forest in the 1st of March.
There you go. So 1st of March, although it feels a long way away now, that next home game, that's going to be some atmosphere, mate. One way or the other, that's going to be some atmosphere. So
I'll be honest with you, mate. You haven't got a great run. I feel like you've had your easy runs.
We have.
I'm looking at the rest of your fixtures. You've got Burnley, second to last game, and Spurs, but you've still got to play Liverpool, Arsenal, Brentford, and Villa, and obviously you've got your cup games in the middle there. Yeah, I think from a Palace perspective, our fixture, we did say this at the start of the season, didn't we?
Did.
That we've actually, our running ain't that bad.
Yeah.
Like we've got a couple of nasties in the middle, but we always knew we had a bit of a tough Christmas spell. So I feel like hopefully we've got all our stupidity out of the way now. Let's see what happens, mate. You ain't going down. If anything, I would take pleasure in watching Nottingham Forest go down after all that shenanigans this year. I wouldn't take pleasure in watching you go down because podcast would be crap.
It would be, wouldn't it? Be very weird. Be very weird.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's about it for Seagull Eagle. Thank you for tuning in, and roll on to next week. That's all I could say.
Make sure you follow the show so you don't miss Neil melting down.
You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. Just search Seagull Eagle and help us get that conversation started.
Or you can drop us an email at seagulleaglepodcast@gmail.com or send a letter to Neil.
Please don't. We'll be back next week, maybe. Until then,
Eagles!
You don't know what
in the morning.